Oh, here comes a sick one.
Ronnie and Paul breaking things down. We're all washed up on the whole down.
Welcome to the Hold Down. Today is all about mullets, motors and big fat meat hooks. Today we are celebrating the life and times of Aussie spirit animal, Mikey Wright. Mate, this is going to be a lot of fun because Mikey Wright, he's one of the funnest characters in surfing at the moment.
For sure, and he typifies the Australian mongrel Aussie spirit that power surfing was built on, in Australia at least. That's what we pride ourselves on.
Who are some of the forefathers of that Aussie spirit?
Well, we'll go back to the original animal, Nat Young. He was basically the first guy to bring that whole new dynamic of power surfing into the Australian lexicon when it came to, culturally, our contribution to surfing.
Yes, Vaughan, there's a long list of great Aussie powerhouses. Of course, Luke Egan, one of the finest. Laid rail like nobody else. Gary Elkerton, the Kong, and then, of course, Mark Occhilupo.
Mate, you could light a city for a week just off those four guys' thigh bones alone.
But I think that Mikey Wright's biggest influence in his surfing career has got to be Matt Hoyt. And let's see just how that played out for Mikey. Here are 5 things that make Mikey Wright the ultimate surfing animal.
5! Number 5. It's the mullet, Ron. The mullet. Finally back. I knew it was going to come back, but when I was rocking it at school, people laughed. People laughed at me. But now it is back, and it's good to see because the mullet really does encapsulate the very deepest bogan in all of us, doesn't it?
It does. But, you know, this is a good opportunity for us to celebrate all the different great hairstyles there's been in the sport of surfing.
Oh, yeah. What about the afro, for example? We've got, Buttons had a pretty wild afro. I think the Hose at different times had nice afros.
Larry Bertleman,
of course. Then we had more recent afros, like Rob Machado. He was rocking a good one.
He had a fantastic one. Then there was the Mohawk, reserved for the punks of the sport. Christian Fletcher always rocking a good Mohawk.
Yeah, I remember Danny Wills having a pretty solid Mohawk when he was a grommet. Jai Goffin, the Majimba Flyer, remember him?
I remember him, just. And then, of course, there is the Fat Hawk, which was celebrated in a big way at Taj Burrow's last championship tour event.
Yeah, but I think most of these guys only got this haircut once and they've never gone back to it, except TB. He was still rocking it today. On your teeth. Well, in Australia, Ron, the mullet is synonymous with the western suburbs of Sydney and everyone out there who loves their muscle cars and their V8 grunt. And so Mikey's mullet best suits his surfing when he's going full bore. The Australian coastline is absolutely massive. And there's nothing better, Ron, than just packing your dog, chucking some stuff in the back of your wheels and scaping off to find perfect surf somewhere around this big, beautiful country.
Yes, Vorno. You need a certain type of vehicle to explore the Aussie coast. It's rugged, it's raw, but it is the ultimate Aussie dream, the road trip dream, just chasing down empty waves and finding a little piece of Australia for yourself.
And as life gets more and more complicated, why not just say, check you later, I'm hitting the road. And this is why we love Mikey. He is not scared to just pack up and check out. Let's see some footage of him on some of his road trips around the country. There you go, the adventurer. Mikey Wright, he grew up travelling around Australia with his family in the back of a big old bus, and he's kept that tradition going, Ron. What a life. How good can you get it?
Such an outdoors man too, isn't he? Throwing a line in here and there, finding his own food, finding his own waves, letting the window down and just letting his mullet flap around in the breeze. Mikey Wright is living the dream. But we've got plenty more to talk about after the break as we celebrate the things that make Mikey Wright one of our favourite spirit animals.
We're all washed up on the whole game.
Oh, here comes a sick one.
Ronnie and Paul breaking things down. We're all washed up on the whole game.
Welcome back to The Hole Down with Ronnie and Vaughan. We've spoken about the mullet, we've spoken about the motors. Now we're going to focus on the mile-high airs. This is our number 3.
Big airs. I'm telling you, Ron, no one hits that end section harder than Mikey Wright. His approach to aerials is completely out of the box, but I'll tell you who it does remind me of a little bit, Dane Reynolds. There's one area in particular where I think Mikey paid special attention, and that was in the air, because this guy goes as big as he can. Dane Reynolds, he attacks every single section, leaves nothing in the tank. Mikey Wright started doing the same stuff, and how about some of the things he was pulling off? Mikey, for a while there, was right on that pathway, doing all the stuff that grommets do. He went in all the junior comps. He went to the High Performance Centre. He did the very traditional thing, Ron. He had sponsors all over the place. And then all of a sudden, he just veered off and found his own path. He let himself grow up, which I think is a really difficult thing to do for a young man who's on his way and on that treadmill to superstar.
Yeah, I think a lot of young surfers were influenced by Dane Reynolds at the time, who had actually decided not to compete for a long period of time, focused on his free surfing, and he influenced a big generation of competitors there, and they also took that same route. They took a departure from championship to a competition.
And I think this is where the mentor, Matt Hoy, comes into play, because when Mikey Wright appeared back on the scene, like we said, he was big, he was fit, he was a man, he had the muscle, he had the mongrel, and he started just absolutely teeing off. How big did this guy surf once he burst back onto the scene?
Yes, Mikey Wright racking up the frequent flyers, Vaughan, getting plenty of pop in those airs and blowing minds all over the world. Well, stay with us because after the break, we'll reveal number 2 on our list, and it's all about laying rail.
We're all washed up on the whole game.
Oh, here comes a sick one.
Ronnie and Paul breaking things down. We're all washed up on the whole game.
Welcome back to the Hole Down. Today's all about the ultimate surf bogan, Mikey Wright. And we've been talking about the big airs, Vaughan, but one thing that gets everyone excited, especially us, mate, is when someone just gets as much speed as possible and puts that board on rail. This is our number 2.
The meat axe hack. Surfing's equivalent to the monstrous burnout. It's just full-blown burnt rubber all over the place, smoke flying everywhere. But is there a better turn in surfing really when it's done properly?
I don't think so. And the best thing about Mikey is he has so many variations of those big rail turns. In particular, I love the grab rail carve.
Yeah, the grab rail carve is surprisingly difficult to pull off with style. I mean, to get into the pocket of the wave, really rip it from top to bottom and then come out of it with speed is almost impossible to do. Try it yourself. I'll bet anything you bog, I'll bet you.
Yeah, and then to complement that grab rail carve, Mikey, when he wants to throw a big layback jam, it just all comes together. He really does attack it like no one else.
The thing about the grab rail carve, Ron, is that it is not a half turn. It is a full, committed, top to bottom, rail driving hack that takes a lot of talent to pull off. Now, if you think about some of the best guys to have ever pulled it off, it's a pretty elite list. Kelly Slater, John Florence, Dane Reynolds. I mean, they're the 3 guys who I think of when I think of grab rail cutties. Mikey Wright is right there with them, if not beating them for pure power, I reckon.
And he's not just a grab rail carve, Vaughan. He's got incredible variety in his surfing, Mikey Wright, and it's all done with a completely raw approach.
Back when we were Groms, Ron, the big accolade from anyone who knew anything about power surfing was how hard you hit the lip. You used to always hear people say it, how hard does he smack the lip? Does he smack the lip or what? Who's smacking the lip around here? Someone smack the lip! Well, I'm telling you, Kelly Slater, the first compliment he ever got from Martin Potter when Potts was at the top of his game was, you know what I like about your surfing? You whack the lip. I'm telling you, it matters. And Mikey Wright, as well as his grab rail carve, as well as his big air game, he attacks that lip with vertical punches, and it's a beautiful thing to watch.
I think that's why he's so internationally celebrated, because you're right. Generations of surfers can appreciate different things about Mikey's surfing. They can appreciate his power, they can appreciate the fact that he has a dig in solid waves, and they can appreciate the fact that he gives it a good old whack. They can also appreciate that mullet. Ooh la la, what a mullet it is. But yeah, you're right, spot on, nailed it. Mikey Wright, one of the most powerful surfers we've ever seen. We've already seen so much incredible vision, but we haven't even reached number 1 yet on our list of Mikey Wright moments. So stick around, because after the break, we'll unveil it.
We're all washed up on the whole game.
Oh, here comes a sick one.
Ronnie and Vaughan breaking things down. We're all washed up on the whole game.
Welcome back to the Hold Down. Ronnie and Vaughan here, talking about Mikey Wright, the surfing mongrel. And in Australia, Vaughan, that title is actually a good thing.
It seems bizarre, doesn't it? That you can mix so many different elements of something together and have something so solid and something we celebrate so much in our country. Mongralism is just an attitude, mate, and it's an attitude that really means rawness, doesn't it?
It does. Well, let's not make the people wait any longer, Vaughan. Let's find out what's sitting at number 1.
They call him Mongrel Mike, and it's the ultimate compliment, Ron. A mixed bag that's all about attitude, and no one quite knows what they're going to get.
Yeah, and they got it big time. Mikey Wright getting a call up as a wild card, the wildest of wild cards. And he took on a couple of world champions in that event. And man, he did some damage.
Didn't he? I mean, imagine it. You're Gabriel Medina, you're paddling out against a wild card, you're expected to win. All of a sudden, here comes this bloke, looking like he's straight off the street at Parramatta, paddling into a heat, flogging you.
Yeah, and then he repeated the dose and gave John Florence a bit of what for in the early rounds up there on the Gold Coast. And as a result, the WSL just couldn't deny him more opportunities, and he made the most of it, didn't he?
But what were the judges loving about Mikey's approach? For me, personally, fresh energy, fearless surfing, and going at it like an absolute lunatic. That's what they want to see in every single heat. But I think the trend is that guys tend to build their way through an event now. If you're on tour, if you've done it for a few years, you know that sometimes you don't have to have your best surfing in your first early rounds, you know, and that can be quite a dangerous thing when you're up against a mongrel.
And you know what? That's where wildcards are at their most dangerous. Early on in the event, where the big result, it's not there in their mind. They're not thinking about it at night when they're going to sleep. It's early rounds, I've got nothing to lose. They're not thinking, oh my God, I'm actually in a position to win this event. That comes later on. So that's when you've got to be most wary of people like Mikey Wright.
And as Mikey Wright continued through the year, getting these opportunities, it was clear that he was going to go close to qualifying because he just kept on taking down these big names, Ron.
Yeah, 2017, we had 2 events in Bali, and that's where Mikey really positioned himself well to get a spot on the championship tour full-time for the next season, back-to-back semi-finals.
And then, once he qualified, an injury. Bad timing, but is he going to be able to bring back that classic Mikey Mongrel when he gets back on tour, Ron?
Well, he's come back from injury a little early in the past, so he's not going to make that mistake again. This guy is going to get himself fit, he's going to get himself ready, he's going to get himself to 100% so he can challenge for a world title.
We know he's got the ability, Ron. We know he's got the ability to challenge for a world title one day. I just want to see him do it with the pedal to the metal, not taking it off, leaving a trail of burning rubber in his wake as he surfs for that number 1 in the world.
Yes, that'd be great to see, Vaughn. Mikey Wright, it's been fun talking about him. He can get it done without the jersey on, whack him in a contest, he's going to tear people apart. Can't wait to see what he gets done in 2020. Unfortunately, mate, that's all we got time for on today's show.
Damn.
But we'll be back next week to break down more special moments in the sport of surfing.